Guys, I was just on ESPN and I was talking with Michael Bisping, and we were talking about Suga Sean and Almeida. And Michael Bisping had very tough love for Suga Sean. And Michael put this in no uncertain terms. And Michael Bisping, who's a world champion, who's in the Hall of Fame, has the right to his opinion. He was just saying for Suga Sean, when Sugar had that knockdown and tried to look at his work, tried to look cool, if you will, that was an immaturity. And Michael is right. Sean needs to not do that again. You need to be very careful. And I realize that that's a hard situation to win. You put a guy down. Why are you following up? Didn't you know he was done? I get that we often second guess this, but that wasn't Michael Bisping's point. And it was very clear that he was just saying, Sean, you're a young guy. Make sure that you don't fall in love with your punches. Make sure that you stay out there, that you stay alert, and that you follow up, because Almeida, not for nothing, but boy, he got up and put one hell of a fight together. You guys know where the rule, protect yourself at all times, comes from? I know that you've heard it, and I know that it's redundant, but I don't know if anybody's ever explained it for you. In 1992, Barcelona Olympics, as a matter of fact, it was the year that Oscar De La Hoya won the gold for the country. But the way the boxing would work is there's 3 rings all set up on the floor because it's a tournament. So it's not what you would picture for like a fight card that you watch in the pros. It's not like that. This is a tournament. It's a bracket, multiple weight classes. They're running these things through. Whoever wins the gold medal in boxing has to put 4 wins together. I bring that to you because it's why there was 3 rings set up, and it's why they're running so fast. And one guy was boxing. Another ring, the horn blew. The guy in the adjacent ring dropped his hands, and boom, the Cuban knocked him out cold. He heard a bell, so he stopped to be a sportsman. It was the wrong bell. And from that day forward is where the clause and the term and expression, protect yourself at all times, that's where that comes from. So if you ever do see a fighter going late, or you ever do see a fighter doing something that looks unsportsmanlike, if the referee has not stepped in, we are told that as fighters, you do not react to the horn. The referee will react to the horn, and you react to the referee. I just want to give a refresher course as to where, when you hear somebody like Michael Bisping, or even me co-signing the statement for Sean O'Malley, to stay in the moment, don't walk away, don't call your own fights. Remember how Mark Hunt used to throw that hook and he'd turn and walk away, and it was like the coolest looking thing ever. You wish that you could be as cool as Mark Hunt was in that moment. Don't do that. Don't do the Mark Hunt, stand your opponent. And by the way, did Almeida ever do a great job, right? In all fairness. And Vince is queuing me up here because I'm talking a little Oscar De La Hoya. Did you guys see this? Oscar De La Hoya apparently is coming back to fight. So the way this worked is Ben Askren and that Paul kid are doing a press conference. And at the very end of the press conference, Oscar De La Hoya walks out. He's got on his Ocean 11 suit. He takes the microphone. He says, I'm making a comeback, and it starts on May 3rd. Drops the mic and walks out. We get no details. A press release is subsequent to this statement that says Oscar signed a 4-fight deal. At 48 years old, Oscar has now signed a 4-fight deal. And you go, what era are we living in? I mean, this is a very baffling era. However, it's just one that we haven't been in lately. This is a kind of a new phenomenon that the sport belongs to 18 to 25-year-olds. That's kind of a new phenomenon. And Dana was very careful to put that message out because it was something that he believed. And then right on the cusp of Dana kind of pushing for some of the younger fighters to have an opportunity, for some of the older guys to step aside, we saw Tito versus Chuck, and it was a complete disaster. So it proved everything that Dana had been alluding to, which was purely coincidence. But leading up to that fight, Dana had been pretty clear, when you're this side of 40, you just shouldn't be in here. Everything got solidified. Every other promoter started to pay attention, and those guys were gone. Now we're starting to see them come back. And by the way, even though this is the era that we're in, the Mike Tysons, the Oscar De La Hoyas, even though this is the era we're in, we have seen this before. You guys will remember somebody named George Foreman. You guys will remember the Spinks brothers. You guys might have heard of a guy that was north of 40 named Muhammad Ali. I only bring to you that even though we're revisiting it, it's not something that we haven't seen before. And it is a little bit bizarre, and I am not a huge fan of it, but I am curious. What are we going to see Oscar do? It would seem to make a level of sense to me that you're going to see Oscar De La Hoya standing opposite of Floyd Mayweather. Why do I come to that conclusion? Because Floyd's broke and would take the fight, and Oscar just wants a payday anyway, and the fight would sell. That's how I come to that conclusion. That's not a whole lot of evidence by me. Oscar came out and said, no, I'm actually going to fight a top level UFC fighter in my first fight. Now, based on the text messages I received from Dana White as Oscar was on stage making that statement, I think that that's going to be a little bit harder to achieve than Oscar may perhaps know. But it would depend on the opponent he wanted. It would depend on the terms. Look, I'm very light on the idea. I don't think Dana's going to give him one of his guys right now. I don't see that happening. Under any scenario, including a co-promote, I do not think that he's going to do that. But Dana does have guys under contract who aren't planning to fight again. Just by example, it's exactly what happened with Ben Askren. Ben Askren told us, oh, look, I'm retired. That's it. Well, Ben was under contract with the UFC, but never tried to get released because he was never going to fight again anyway. So for Ben to go fight this Paul kid, he had to call Dana up and get permission for it. So I just offer for you, there are some scenarios like that where there could be something where we see Oscar in there with a name that we would know that he thinks he could get the jump on. For Oscar to get the jump on any meaningful MMA fighter that still has a meaningful and active contract that is that side of 40, I'm light on. I'm light on the idea. We'll see where this all plays out. And are they just going to do all geriatrics cards? I mean, are they just trying to get guys on there? Are you bringing a rapper? Are you bringing a basketball player? Boxing's in a weird spot right now. And we can't say no. And by the way, before we feel like we want to tease them and go, ha, Chael said geriatric, that's fun. We'd watch. As much as they are fulfilling this level of entertainment and this level or lack thereof of competition, if we watch, we're as much the problem as they are the solution.